Hello, everyone. My name is Lyric Swinton, and I am here for the second episode of Maps and Graps. And so this is the first one that we're doing a video version, so I'm kind of nervous. But anyway, today we're going to talk about one of my new favorite wrestling obsessions, and that is British wrestling and the UK wrestling scene. And I couldn't do this episode without Charlie. So
Hello.
glad that she decided to stay up late
Yes.
today because, like I said, I'm very new to the BritWres scene, and I feel like we needed more of a pro for this episode because that's everything that everybody's talking about now with the
Yeah.
announcement of AEW All In. But we're going to get into that later. So, Charlie, can you introduce yourself right now, really quickly?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Charlie. As Lyric said, I'm from the UK, big wrestling fan. I spend a lot of time on Twitter and watching wrestling. Yeah.
Awesome. So, I think we've heard a little bits and pieces from AEW or New Japan.
Yeah.
But what actually is the British wrestling scene? I think a lot of time, like I personally, I heard about just how dead the British professional wrestling scene was after NXT UK, and and I've just been hearing more and more things. Specifically, if you follow Will Ospreay, he always talks about like
Yeah.
putting it on his shoulders and trying to rebuild the scene. And so, just from your own expertise, what is the UK wrestling scene like?
Yeah. Let's get into the history of it a little bit because anyone that spent any time online in the wrestling community knows about speaking out that happened. And that was really prevalent in the British wrestling scene in 2020. And post that, we had the pandemic happen and NXT UK, and it just kind of wiped the scene out a lot. And there wasn't much of the good stuff left. But like we're in 2023 now, and for the most part, all of that's been moved past, and it's starting to build up again. So the big promotions, like to me, would be Revolution Pro and This Is Progress. Those are the two bigger promotions in the UK. But there's a lot of different promotions that are doing their things. You've got Sov Pro and Carnival Wrestling, and there's a lot of different places you can find your little wrestling. Attack is back. Has just come. The promotion Attack has just come back, and they're really good. They do a lot of fun shows, and there's a lot going on. It's just nowadays it's a bit harder to find because of everything that happened beforehand.
So, for people who don't know, could you talk about really briefly about both speaking out as well as what happened with NXT UK? Because I think
Yeah.
when people hear about NXT Europe, everybody like, this is such a great thing, and this is like,
Mm.
especially when you think about how this can affect places like Japan, Mexico, if they just branch out there. So, could you just like
Yeah.
briefly talk about those things?
So speaking out was the movement where people within the wrestling community, they started to post about trigger warning for anyone listening, about a sexual assault and things of that nature, and they started naming and shaming wrestlers the in the companies and that, and it got a lot of traction online. I'm not going to talk about any stories in particular. All of it is available on Google. But a lot of companies had to fire a lot of people that were involved, and it started in BritWres, but it like spread across the world, and there was promotions everywhere that basically had to get rid of a lot of people or like take the fire for not getting rid of them. But it did a lot of good in the sense that it helped clear out a lot of the scum of the community and helped try to make a safer place for BritWres and the fans here. Don't get me wrong, BritWres still does have its problems, but nowhere near as bad as it used to be, and nothing to that level anymore either. And with NXT UK, that really anything good that was left, it wasn't, because everyone got signed. Well, a lot of people got signed, and it just didn't leave a lot of indie talent for the smaller promotions. It really kind of killed any momentum anyone had.
Yeah, and I think just for context, like think about the Walters, the Ilya Dragunov
Mm-hmm.
of the world, the people that in WWE right now who are having the wrestling matches of the promotion,
Yeah.
they all came from that scene, which I don't think
Yep.
I knew. I started watching like some of the Walter Ilya Dragunov matches, and then like you do a little YouTube search and like they fought millions of times, either in Rev Pro or WXW or all these other promotions, and it's like, huh, like you can see like just how I would say it kind of just took the scene, like in so many
Yeah.
great talent. Like even look at people like Bea Priestley, and there's just so many. Michael Satomura. There's just so many great talents who ended up getting snatched up. And like, here's the thing: we all know that major promotions are always going to be
Yeah.
attractive, specifically for indie wrestlers. That's always going to be an attractive thing. But I do believe that there's a way how to do things
Mm-hmm.
rather than the colonial method, as I like to call
Oh
it.
yeah.
So
The thing is, it like they signed so many people all at once. It just
yeah,
wiped out everything because like BritWres lost Walter, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, like Ilya Dragunov, like your Bea Priestleys, your Jamie Haters.
mhm,
Everyone went all at once,
absolutely.
and it was like, yes, we still have like the younger up and coming talent, but they can't carry the promotions the way that the other talents were,
Mhm.
like not at the time anyways.
Yeah, I was remember I actually one Brit Rest promotion that I like is Pro Wrestling Eve. And so
Mm-hmm.
going back and watching all their old stuff, I'm like, they used to have like, not saying that they're not doing good now, because I do think that they have like some great people coming in. Like they have Miyu Yamashita who is frequenting them.
Yeah.
But they used to have the wrestlers. Like they used to have the heavy hitters of women's wrestling. And now
Yeah.
almost all those people are signed either by WWE or AEW. And so it's just very interesting to see how all of those organizations just kind of gotten smaller. But I think, as you said earlier, we're starting to see that resurgence. So, starting with actually, I've never really seen Progress recently. So, what is interesting about Progress? Like, who should we be looking out for? And do you have some favorite matches from Progress specifically that people should be checking out?
Yeah, so like more recent stuff, the people that like frequent progress that are the ones to
Mhm.
watch are people like Leon Slater, Ricky Knight Jr. For the women, like LA Taylor, she's only been wrestling for like 3 years and she's like gonna be the next big thing out of England, I think. She's incredible. But like with like recent matches they've done, Nick Wayne, who I'm sure a lot of people are really
Yeah.
familiar with, in February he had a match against someone called Callum Newman, who if you haven't seen his matches, you are going to be shocked at just how fast he is, because like I never want to compare guys on the indies to like Osprey or any Ricochet or anyone like that, but it is that sort of, oh my god, how the hell do you move that fast sort of thing. So it's just like the tag team wrestling's really strong over here as well. You've got people like Lycos Jim, the Sunshine Machine, and people like that. There's just loads of like up and comers that are coming through progress at the moment, and they're getting the matches booked and they're putting in the work, and it's just really nice to see that it's all picking up again.
So my personal favorite, maybe it's just because I've actually this is the only one I've seen in person. I got my
Mhm.
shirt on today. Rev Pro, and I think that anybody who watches New Japan will probably be more familiar with them just because they frequently share talent. Currently, Will Ospreay was the
Yeah.
British heavyweight champion for a long time, and now Great O'Khan holds that championship. And so there's a lot of crossover because those are partners. But Rev Pro has, I mean, and just how you were saying, you hate to like compare some of these indie talent to some of these, bigger stars. But even me being, when I went to Live in London 71, you could tell like there's some of these, like, I feel like it's almost like when people talk about like getting married, like when like You
Yeah.
know, when you're looking at people who are the future, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Revolution Pro just has so many
Yes.
incredible, young, hungry talent. And so just talk about a few of your favorites. And your favorites will probably be like my favorites, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, when you talk about Rev Pro, you've got to talk about Michael Oku,
Oh,
because
yes.
the
Absolutely.
showings he's had at the moment. Like,
Yeah.
I went to their most recent York Hall event, and he not only had a match against Zack Sabre Jr. that went like 20 plus minutes, that he went into hurt. He was already banged up.
Yeah.
He then entered the Revolution Pro Rumble and won the whole thing. Like, he had an incredible showing on that show. But Michael Oakley aside, other Rev Pro talent, Connor Mills is a big one that I'm a big fan of. He did his heel turn last year. He had his whole story with Michael Oku, and he's just been really showing out. And you've got your people like Dan Maloney, who's just joined the
Yes.
United Empire. So I'm hoping he'll go to Japan soon and have a showing over there so more people learn who he is. And then, gosh, there's like Gabriel Kidd. He's really impressive. He does a lot with New Japan anyways, but whenever he's in Red Pro, it's a delight. Um, Again, Leon Slater is someone that pops up often there. Yeah, there's a lot of talent. They're just all really impressive.
Yeah, I loved, like, so I watched the Revolution Rumble like the day after it actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first time really watching like one a show like without being there, but also like just a big show. And it was so good. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you never watched Rev Pro before, I highly recommend it. First of all, the Michael Oku Zack Sabre Jr. match was excellent.
Yes.
It was excellent. And then like the Revolution Rumble, keep in mind, most of these people, like I know some of them and know of them, but
Mm-hmm.
even as a person who didn't know a lot of the talent in it, I enjoyed myself. Like I enjoyed that more than I enjoyed the Royal Rumble that happened earlier
Yeah.
this year. And I'm not just saying that's not me being like a WWE hater or anything. Just really before people start like it was really good. And
Yeah.
I feel like there's a good balance sometimes, like when you get the balance of really good pro wrestling, and then you have like your sports entertainment like spots, and
Yeah.
I think that it was fantastic, and I think that the story that is being told right now with Michael Oku, not just in Rev Pro, but I think just all over the world of
Across the
just
world, yeah.
absolutely like the showings that he's had in PWG, the Will Osprey match, like he is the next best thing, I believe. Like
Yeah.
out of, and I don't want to say like the next best thing because I feel like people are starting to know, know of him,
Yeah.
but he's not nowhere as big as he's going to be. And
Mm-hmm.
if he's the only reason that you watch Rev Pro right now, I feel like you won't be disappointed because like he's incredible.
Yeah.
And
It's
he had a
like,
great
oh,
showing Mania weekend too.
yeah, Michael Oku's already had an incredible 2023 because like I got to be able to go to Bola this year, so seeing him in Bola, like having watched him like progress through like Rev Pro and all the other promotions, it was such a special moment, and it was like I was so happy that the crowd got so behind him, especially on night 2 in the Jericho match, and like he came out of that with Jericho wanting to work with him in the future, and it's like, and he's like, the way they're setting it up, I truly believe he's going to be the first person to beat Great O'Khan in Rev Pro. I really think that's the position he's going to be in. And I'm just so happy for him because he's put in so much work, and it's going to be such a special moment when it happens.
And he's so young, and like I will say, like he doesn't have the stereotypical like wrestler build or anything.
Yeah.
He's just so good. And I like it reminds me almost like, Adam Cole in the sense of like
Yeah.
being the little guy with this big attitude, like this big heart, this big attitude, and like also just this crazy amount of skill. And
Mm-hmm.
I like, people could say whatever they want about Chris Jericho, but sometimes he really does get it right by having like an eye for talent.
Yeah.
And he said, like, I think they did Talk as Jericho together. Like, he knew right away, like, he has it. I think another great match from that show was the Robbie X and Leah Rush match.
Oh, yes.
Very good. And
Yes.
I think Leo Rush has expressed that he wants to do more dates in the UK. And so I think that that's going to be fantastic. That was my first time ever really seeing Robbie X, and
So good.
fantastic.
If you like cruiserweights, Robbie X is the way to go, because he's just, I don't know how to describe his talent, because of like, yes, he fits into that like high flying, high speed style, but he's just so unique in the way he does it. And
Absolutely.
it's just, I've been watching Robbie X for a long time now, and he's just getting better and better, which is hard to believe when he's already so good.
Yeah,
But
that was my first time seeing him, and I'm just like, and I think also, I mean, I've said this before, but Leo Rush, I just think is having this career resurgence right now,
yeah,
and I feel like we're just in this space where wrestlers are finding exactly where they belong, and
hmm,
he's one of them. And I think everybody he gets in the ring with, whether it's Kushida or or it's Robbie or it's Hiromu,
yeah,
he's just been killing it. But I feel like he always has to have a great dance partner. And I think like he's also a person right now, he's gotten so good that if you're not
yeah,
careful, he can easily overshadow his opponent. And I really appreciate that like Robbie did not let that happen at all.
yeah.
And I think that honestly, I feel like we're in a junior heavyweight slash cruiserweight resurgence all
Oh,
across the
100%.
globe right now. And it's just so exciting between Lucha Libre, between like, over in the UK, even
Yeah,
in Japan. I feel like we're in this cruiserweight, junior heavyweight resurgence that's reminding everybody that 9 times out of 10, this is why you fell in love with wrestling. Like,
yeah,
just, even with Rey Mysterio being inducted into the Hall of Fame, of 9 times out of 10, this is exactly why you got interesting. They 9 times out of 10, there was a cruiserweight that caught your eye, and you were like, "Whoa, like this is
yeah,
crazy." So I'm just really excited. I want to see what happens with that belt specifically, like Robbie X's
100%.
belt. Um,
Well,
and
him and Leo Rush are one apiece in matches now, so
so
we're gonna have a rubber match at some point. I'm hoping
I can't wait for that. Yeah.
it's gonna be insane.
So, do you have any favorite Red Pro matches that I know we talked about a few, but just a few that
Ooh,
I recommend?
this is probably recency bias, but Will Ospreay and Tomohiro Ishii had a match in December at Uprising, I think it
Was that
was,
your
and
call? Was that your call?
yeah, that was in your call as well. And that match was so incredible. Like I'm a little bit biased because I was there live, but it was
Yeah.
just so good. And on that same card, Zack Sabre Jr. faced Leon Slater, who
Mm.
is like, I don't want to say he's like the UK equivalent of Nick Wayne, but it kind of is
Yeah.
like that sort of vibe. Like he's incredible, and he like went toe to toe with Zack Sabre Jr. was so fucking good. But there's I'm trying to think of a few older matches. Osprey and Pac have a match in Rev Pro
I need to
that
watch
went to a time limit draw, and that's the only time they've ever faced.
it.
So
When was
yeah,
it? Like a year?
this was it was pre-pandemic. I think it's going back a few years. It might have been like 2017, 2018. I'll have to look up a specific
It
date.
must have been like right after he left WWE, or was
Yeah,
it right after?
yeah. I think it was before he left WWE. I don't think it was before he went to WWE.
Oh, so before he went, gotcha.
I'll have to double check that. I'll find the information out.
Yeah.
But they went to a time limit draw, and they've never had another singles match together. So whoever ends up capitalizing on that is gonna make a lot of money off of it.
I will say, if you they well, I'll get to that when we talk about all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going.
yeah, yeah. I actually miss Pac. Just because I have not seen him in a couple weeks, but yeah, Revolution Pro. I've enjoyed it, even with the women's matches. I think that
Yeah,
Danny Luna has a huge upside. Like,
yeah,
I think that she has a huge upside. Like when I saw her for the first time, I was like, oh wow. Like I was like, she has it. Like she does. Obviously, like she's very early in her career. Just takes. I just like when you can see that somebody's just a few tweaks from
yeah,
pulling it all together. And I feel like she's one of those people. Sky Spitzen just defeated her for the Southside Women's title at the Revolution Rumble. And there's a few others that I think are great. But for the women's wrestling side, I'm not sure like how long has women's wrestling always been a part of Rev Pro, or is this a fairly recent thing?
I think it's been a part of Repro for quite a while now. Like my history of BritWres is a little bit spotty, but it's been thriving, especially again recently, because again post like NXT UK, so much of the good talent was just gone. But there's a lot of people that are up and coming through like Rev Pro at the moment, because like Sky Smithson that's just won the belt, she's really impressive.
Very.
Danny Luna, like you said, a few tweaks and she could be like one of the top women in the UK at the moment. Like there's just something about her that makes her so enticing to watch. Like I don't know, I feel like her look, her attitude, it's just like she makes a few changes and like nails her moveset. She's gonna be one to watch for sure.
True.
It kind of makes like Sky Smithson and LA Taylor are in a faction together in Progress, so it would make it a bit weird to do the match in Rev Pro. But I want to see them two face each other because I think that would be really, really good.
I also just because I'm also pretty new to Stardom as well. Like I just recently found out that Mariah May used to frequent in Rev Pro quite a bit and wrestled there a lot. And she's killing it in Stardom right now.
Yeah.
Like she's doing an amazing. And so I don't know. Like I need to look up some of her matches as well. So if any of you are Mariah May fans, know that she has Rev Pro matches. I can't recommend them right now, but hopefully by next time hopefully by next time I can. So I feel like we've waited long enough to talk about, because this is going to take quite a bit of time, AEW All In
Yes.
London. Just first off, what was your initial reaction? Like I'm sure that as an actual UK fan, I know you all waiting on this day
Oh my
forever,
goodness.
for a literal ever.
Forever.
So what was, because you called it on Twitter, I think you knew the announcement was coming, but you didn't know it was going to be this. So what was your original reaction?
Well, I had put out a tweet that was like saying something about it's really interesting that people don't think the UK announcement would be a big enough announcement. And I put that out earlier in the day because I'd heard a few rumours that this was the day, that this was going to be the day that the UK show was announced. So I was like, I'll just see what people think, like how they reply to me and see what happens. And then obviously you've probably seen a lot of the replies. Everyone was just like, well, it's not big enough. It's this.
Yeah.
And then they announced that not only was it in London, not only was it all in, it was Wembley Stadium. So they just knocked it straight out the park. And like I'd heard a rumor or two about Wembley Stadium, and I was just like, "Are you sure you don't mean Wembley Arena? Like the 20K venue? Like, are we sure we don't mean that?" But no, they announced it as Wembley Stadium, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And they believe in this paper, like this show, enough to like name it after All In again. Which obviously, if people aren't familiar with that, that was the indie show that the Bucks and Kenny and Cody all put on prior to AEW even being a thing. And everyone online was telling them, well, you're not going to sell out a 10K venue. And they did.
Meltzer, including
Yeah, including Meltzer, who, if you ask people on Twitter, loves the Bucks and is their bestie sort of thing. Like, but even Meltzer didn't think they could do it, and they did. And it's all happening again. It's just like, well, you're not going to sell out Wembley Stadium. And it's just like, people really keep moving the goalposts. But,
I think
so excited.
I think I had like two initial emotions. One is excitement, and two, I was like, fuck, how am I going to afford this? So I just got back. I literally just got back for 10 days for my spring break, and I'm just still paying off that trip. And then I just made the impulsive decision to like, oh, but I have to be in Toronto for Forbidden Door.
Yeah, me too. I'm doing that one too.
Plus, I have Beyonce tickets, and I'm just like, how am I going to do it? But I'm just like, I have to. Like, have to. Like, there was never a doubt in my mind. I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
I texted my best friend who is a grad student in Atlanta. I was like, listen, I will sleep on your floor. Like, if I have to, I will sleep on your floor. It's literally like 2 days before she moves out, too.
Oh my
But
god! Oh
like,
my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
but we're gonna work it out. I'm trying to get like one of our other friends to come with me, and we can just split like an
Yeah.
Airbnb or something. But I think it's just so cool. Like me personally, I didn't come from the New Japan, Ring of Honor, like elite verse. Like I came to All In and AEW because of Cody, because I grew up watching
Mm-hmm.
Cody and like loving but I stayed with it because like I just fell in love with like Kenny and the Bucks and like became a like I obviously I will always have a special place in my heart for Cody, but like I just love the elite like so much. And like once you get locked into that elite lore, it's
Yep.
like
There's no escape for you.
no,
Like
like
you can't escape.
it's literally like you're in, like you're locked in. And I
Yeah.
think just seeing the whole process of just like, oh, this is going to happen. And like I don't like to get into ratings or anything. Like that's not my job. But
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that people underestimate how
Yeah.
long people have waited for an opportunity like this.
Yes.
Not just in UK. Like you have to think basically an entire side of the world has never experienced AEW. Like an entire
Mm-hmm.
side of the world. You don't even have to think about even if British fans don't show up, every other European fan will show up, and not just European fans. You
Yeah.
have wackos like me who are willing to come, who are willing to risk it all to come from America. And I think
Yep.
that people just underestimate this is not a casual fan type fan base. These are people who are hardcore. Like I have spent so much money on AEW tickets and I've never done that for wrestling before this promotion.
Yeah.
And people are hardcore about this promotion, this product. We want to see AEW win. We believe in this product because most of us would not be wrestling fans right now if it wasn't for AEW. And like not just to say, because AEW has been a gateway into so many other things. Like I've started to watch New Japan and like Noah and TJPW and DDT and
Mm-hmm.
all these different promotions. I think when Mania weekend, the fight president of Fight TV talked about how with the introduction of Fight Plus and having all these indies of just how AEW has helped independent wrestling all over the world, of just
Yeah.
providing, just gateways for people to get into it. And I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to
Yeah.
do it. I think some people have already like started to settle and be like, if they just get 60K, I think that they'll do fine. I think they're going to go over 60K. Um, I believe it. And I think also just like if you've ever touched, and this is as an American fan, going to the UK, going to a BritWres show, these fans are hungry. Like these fans are hungry.
Yeah.
And I think people underestimate that.
Oh, 100%. I spoke about this on Twitter the other day. People like I never will claim that I understand like the metrics of it all better than all the news journalists that report on these sorts of things and do all the research. But they aren't at the shows. They don't know British wrestling fans the way that the people who are here do. AEW is the top promotion over here. Is all people talk about at shows when they're not talking about the show itself. Like the only time that WWE gets brought up really is just like, did you see what happened? It was kind of bad, sort of thing. Like I don't want to like shit on WWE or anything, but AEW
It's valid, yeah.
is the hardcore promotion here. It's like it's very much like TNA was like back in the day. Like anyone that knows like the history of it knows that TNA was huge here, and like the British shows always did insanely well.
Mhm.
But like you said, it's not just for British fans. It's in London, which is the most accessible city in Europe, pretty much.
Absolutely.
Like there's like at least 4 countries you can get a direct train from. Flights are like 2 hours and you can get them for dirt cheap. Like it's going to be so easy for people to get here for the show. And it's just, Wembley Stadium has so much history, and it's a big day in London that day anyway, because Notting Hill Carnival, which is like the biggest event in London, like festival in London, like every year. And then it's also a bank holiday on Monday, so a lot of people don't have to already book time off work. So I think it's gonna, I don't know whether it will sell out. It depends how many seats they open in general. But I think it's gonna smash any of these ticket predictions out of that park. And I think people are going to be very, very shocked by how well it does in both the pre-sale and general sale. In like, I think it's just going to be crazy.
And I think people just, I think people just have to understand there is a difference between the fan bases. Like, I feel somebody said this on Twitter the other day. I forgot. Charged to my head, not my heart. But they were just like, WWE has gotten to a point to where they're not pushing stars; they're pushing just their brand alone. Of just how it's just gotten as a rite of passage. If you're in America, at least, like if WWE's in town, you go. In your city, you go. Like it doesn't matter who's on the card. It doesn't matter about any of those things. It's almost like the circus. Like it's just like, oh, the circus is in town. Let's go. Like, you know. And but AEW fans, like, I've never seen anything like it. And I know that none of us haven't. Like, I know people who literally will drive 6 hours, like on a regular Wednesday, just to go make Dynamite and drive back home for work the next morning just because they want to be in the room. And I think the type of excitement of just, oh, like I think of even why I bought Forbidden Door tickets. I was like, if I can even smell that I'm going to be in the room for Omega Ospreay 2, I need to be in attendance. Like it's like it's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm possessed. I don't know. But I feel like we're all possessed, and I think like we just know how big this is, and I truly, and I believe that this will probably be the most, if they stick this landing, I believe that this will be the most important moment in professional wrestling of this century, and or maybe the second if you want to put it behind the first All In. I don't know. But I truly believe that this is going to be either number one or number two most important moment in professional wrestling history. And I say this because if they, especially if they do this, you got to think this is a month after Money in the Bank in the O2. They smash these ticket predictions. It's going to be a grand equalizer. Like I just believe like it's going to be a grand equalizer. And I even think that brands who have, you know, resisted working with AEW because of pre-existing relationships, I think that they're going to revisit things like that. Funko Pops, I'm looking at you because I want AEW.
Yes.
AEW Funko Pops. I like micro brawlers, they're cool. I need AEW Funko Pops. So I'm really hoping that they stick this landing so I can start getting AEW Funko Pops. That's really exciting, but I think it's going to be a great equalizer. And I also think that it's going to be a shot in the arm for this UK wrestling scene. So can you talk a little bit about that, about what do you think is going to mean to the scene as a whole?
I think it's going to be really motivating for a lot of young wrestlers who are already so hungry for opportunities and want to be noticed. And like, you've got to think like AEW, like running this show, like all the indie promotions, they're already planning their little dates. They're going to get their shows in around this. Rev Pro are, I'm pretty sure Progress are going to do something that weekend, like probably on the Friday or like the Saturday. And it's like, they want to be noticed. They know there's going to be so many new wrestling fans in town that are going to be like, hey, like we've got a free day, let's go check out this show. And they're going to be introduced to your Leon Slaters, your Callum Newmans, your LA Taylors. Like they're just going to realize, I hope a lot of these young wrestlers realize what a big opportunity this could be for them, even if they're not involved in the show itself. Just like going, working the indie shows, networking, meeting new fans and branching out, it's going to be insane. And I just think it's going to be a good way to get a lot of new eyes on BritWres and like the new entity it's becoming and how much it's improved, and maybe slow down some of the haha BritWres bad jokes on Twitter, because there's a lot of it. And some of the time that it's undeserved. Like, things have really improved, but people just haven't really been given a reason to look into it.
Mhm.
And All In is gonna be that thing that makes people look into it. Because I really do think this is gonna be a pivotal moment in wrestling history, and it's gonna shock a lot of people.
I saw when it was announced, I saw Michael Oku tweet just Wembley Stadium, and
Yes.
I think that's important simply because like, and I'm 25. I think he's what 22, 20, like.
No, Michael Oku is like 29, 30.
Oh, okay. But
Yeah.
even so, almost
Yeah.
all of us are too young to remember whenever there was a professional wrestling show at Wembley Stadium. None of this
Hmm.
happened in our lifetime. Like there's an entire generation of fans who have never seen professional wrestling on that scale,
Yeah.
and I think this is honestly the equivalent of a British WrestleMania weekend. Like, this is the
Yeah.
equivalent of a British WrestleMania weekend. I think we're going to see just how I watched ungodly amounts of wrestling that weekend.
Oh, yeah, me too.
My my eyes were in pain. Like, my eyes,
It was so bad.
oh my God, the blue light, it was terrible.
Hmm.
But anyway, I think we're going to see that in, like, in the UK, of just like all these different events. I don't know, I need somebody to convince Wale to do Wale Mania.
Imagine. That would be
Like,
crazy.
could somebody please convince Wale to do Wale Mania, a London version? I
Oh,
think that would be great.
that would be hilarious.
Incredible. But I think that's what we're looking at. Like, when you see big stadium shows like that, like, there's a reason why everybody was like, "Oh, Clash at the Castle feels like a WrestleMania." Stadium shows do that. Like, I mean, stadium
Yeah.
shows typically do that, and just I think we're just going to see levels of international cooperation that could make people cry. Like, I am so
Hmm.
excited to connect with new fans and like meet different people, and I think it's going to be great. And I think also not just for I think the wrestlers, I think this is going to be a really great opportunity for content creators. I think that
Yeah.
this is going to be an awesome opportunity for whether you run a podcast, a blog, like, if you are able to get down there, like, I think that you're going to be able to do some really cool stuff, meet some really cool people. No, you might not be able to interview the Will Ospreys of the world all the time, but you might be able to interview some of these great up and coming indie wrestlers. Like, people are going to be, looking for opportunities like that to get their name out there, specifically, with established content creators. So I think that this is going to be a really important
Yeah.
time for everybody that's connected to wrestling.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of networking that weekend for a
Absolutely.
lot of people. Just like the podcasters, the content creators, the wrestlers themselves, anyone looking to break into the business in some way, shape, or form. This is like a key opportunity for a lot of people to do it. And like you said, maybe not the Will Ospreys and the big name talents will be available for interviews, but a lot of British indie talent, they are so willing to talk to people all the time. Just like, even that like shows in that, like, I've spoken to talent for like over 10 minutes at a time before. They just love to chat and like learn from the fans, and the fans learn from them. And it's just, it feels like there's so much connection in the community here, and I'm really excited for there to be new connections made and connections strengthened. It's just going to be a great time. I'm so excited to be there.
I think I noticed that at the Rep Pro show. Like, the talent is so accessible in ways
Mhm.
where over there, like, and I would say I wish it was like here in America, but Americans don't know how to act sometimes. So I understand why we don't do those things all the time. But it was really cool. It was really refreshing. Just to see, like, you go to the merch table, talent standing right there. They have their own little square things, so you could swipe your card. Like, they're taking the
Yeah.
orders, like, they're actually
Yeah.
taking their own orders, and it was like super cool. And like you said, I think that if you're willing to do the work, I think that there's going to be so many people who are willing to talk. And I
Yeah.
think American wrestling fans specifically, we take a lot for granted. of just how we get everything. Like we get everything. And obviously, like America's a huge place, so it's spread out. So it's like I'm in South Carolina, so Los Angeles is literally feels like the other side of the world. But
Yeah.
for the most part, like there will be at least one or two major shows that are at least on your coast every single year. So like
Yeah.
that is at least like 2 hours away flight. Like you're guaranteed that. Think about UK wrestling fans by the end of this year will have gotten 3 big shows probably in what the last decade, probably more than I maybe 2, and that's
Yeah.
Clash, Money in the Bank, and All In, and only one of them is geared towards hardcore fans. Like I think we
Yeah.
take a lot for granted sometimes, and so I'm actually very excited. It was really cool for me, I would say, as an American, to see the pure joy of UK wrestling fans that night, of people who stayed up. And first of all, it's like 2 a.m. anyway, and they're
Yeah.
just like rejoicing. And I didn't know how hard that was until I was in the UK for Revolution, and I said, "Shit, how do you all do this every
Mhm.
single week? Not just for pay-per-views, but for Dynamite. For all, how do you all stay up? Like the show starts at 1.
Ugh.
You all really
Mhm.
love it, and I think it's the passion that I think we all get wrapped up in this casuals debate, but casual fans don't wake up at 1 a.m. and go to sleep at 3, 4, 5 a.m. Like these are fans who have been hungry, and I think that's another reason why I think that this is going to be a blast.
Yeah. I always complain about the time zones, but like I love it so much. I love wrestling, and like people on Twitter are sometimes like, well, you've just had Clash at the Castle, they're doing Money in the Bank, like why is All In such a big deal? And it's like a lot of us that have been waiting for AEW don't enjoy the content that WWE put out anymore, for the most part. Like, yes, they'll have those really banger matches and those cool moments that happen every now and then that everyone loves, and it's like it's a feel good thing. Like, but like something like this, we've been waiting for 5 years pretty much, like since the first All In. Like a lot of this talent either haven't been to the UK before or haven't been since before the pandemic. So it's like we've been waiting for so long just for like one opportunity to like see these people live and to get to do the experience in the UK. Like I'm very fortunate in the fact that I've been to an AEW show. I went to Revolution, so I've had that experience. But to do it in Britain is just like a completely different,
Absolutely.
like it's just a completely different experience. Like it's nice that I say it's nice, that's underselling it majorly, but it's just so cool to me that they've gone all in for it, and they're swinging for the fences, and I hope that it just goes exactly how they want it to and exceeds even like Tony Khan's expectations and what he wants out of it.
And so, and like last thing before we get to the fun stuff, which is fantasy booking, but I think it's just so beautiful. It's cool to grow with the company. Like I feel like, and I think I noticed this at WrestleMania. And WrestleMania Night 1 was great. I really did enjoy WrestleMania Night 1.
Yeah,
Night
me too.
2, I don't want to ever talk about it ever again, except for that Gunther Sheamus McIntyre match. But I think that like WrestleMania Night 1 was when it hit me. I was just like, this isn't for us anymore. Like it's not even geared towards wrestling fans anymore. Like just to be quite
Yeah.
honest, I think that they have WWE is very lucky to have wrestlers that I think people are going to be and even hardcore fans are always going to be invested in. So you have your Kevin Owens and you have your Sami Zayn. So
Yeah.
people who've been riding from the beginning, of course you're going to ride for them. And then you have, even Gunther, McIntyre, Sheamus, European fans, and also the real Graps fans, like that's the wrestling. And then I think Charlotte and Rhea, most of us watched NXT, the black and gold NXT. So like
Yeah.
we came up with them, like so of course we're going to be invested in matches like those. Rey Mysterio versus Dom, like it's Rey Mysterio, and also
It's Rey Mysterio.
Dom has been really entertaining.
Yeah.
I hate myself for how much I get entertained by him, but I think that WWE has like those strategic people who, you know, for a major show, we're always going to tune in for. But outside of the matches, like with the sponsors and the cinnamon toast crunch running around, like the commercials. And the thing is, I have commercial free Peacock, and there were still commercials. I was so confused.
Yeah.
And so I think it really hit me of just like, this isn't for wrestling fans, like the heart, like this is for casual fans, like even like with the YouTuber stuff, like I'm Gen Z, but I had no idea who any of those guys were. Like the KSI, like I had no idea, like it went
Oh, I know who KSI is because of the town I grew up in. He's from like half an hour away from here. So like JJ was like a hometown boy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
He's from England.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, I didn't know that. Like when I
Yeah,
said
KSI.
I knew
Mm.
that. Yeah.
He's basically a hometown boy for me. So I was just like, oh my god, KSI's at WrestleMania.
Wow.
It was crazy.
I had no idea. And like, yeah, I just kind of felt like, you know, I enjoyed the matches. And I was just like,
Yeah.
you know, it kind of gave me some type of peace. It was just like, you know what? This isn't my jam anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful because it got me into wrestling. And like, of course, I'll probably always check in for like big four shows. But it's not my thing anymore. And I think it's so cool to just grow with a company. Like, I
Yeah.
think just we've seen like you should, in all intents and purposes, the pandemic should have killed AEW. Like it should have
Yes.
killed them. Like and the fact that they keep managing to grow and like even watching them bounce back from Brawl Out and watching them bounce back from people. I think even look at last year with Forbidden Door. Everybody going down with injuries literally
Oh, it
daily.
was terrible. It was like,
Awful.
as a wrestling fan, you never want to see anyone injured, but like that era, it was like, what the hell is going on?
It
What is
just
in the
kept
water
getting
right
worse.
now?
It's like every time I was just like, you know, maybe it's me. Maybe I shouldn't get on Twitter. Because I was just, it felt like every morning when I woke up, it was like somebody's down, somebody's down, and it's just like, oh
They're
my gosh.
falling like flies. It was a terrifying time to be like present on Twitter, because like every time I refresh the timeline, I'm just like, I'm scared I'm gonna get another news announcement, someone else is out.
And it was terrible. And the fact that for me, that was, I had never watched a New Japan show before that. And I made the decision to buy Forbidden Door, I think 30 minutes before, and I just purchased it on a whim because I think my plans got canceled for that night. And I didn't expect to like it. I will say, and then by the end of it, I'm a feral. Like I'm just like, how do I sign up for? Is it in New Japan World? Like, is it? And then I need to
Yeah.
do things. And I was obsessed in the fact that they were working with a skeleton crew, still produced pay per view of the year, and I was just like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, this is like growing with a company. I've never really, I don't think any of us have experienced it, but this has been the coolest ride. And I think I just want to see them win. Like, I just want to see them win.
Yeah.
And I don't even feel like it's them. Like, I feel like I see us win. Like, it feels like we've all
Yeah.
been a part of this journey. So I just want to see all of us win. Like, I'm ready to cry. And so getting back
Yes.
into the fun stuff, what do
Just before
you,
we move
oh
on, just like saying about like growing with a company, I've been a fan of the Bucks for like 13 years now.
my
But
gosh.
I became a fan of them because of the match they had with Motor City Machine Guns on their debut in TNA. That's how I discovered them.
Generation me.
Generation Me, Max and Jeremy Buck. That is how I became a fan of these boys. And like I've just been following them and seeing them go through like all the stuff they had going on with TNA and how not great that was, and then through Ring of Honor and New Japan and all the indies that they've done, and then like them doing All In and then making AEW. It's just like how far they've come in this journey with Kenny and Cody and everyone else that's been involved along the way. It's like to sit here and now have All In happening here. it's like, I wouldn't say being a fan has paid off, because of being a fan's just always been a pleasure to be a fan of these guys. But it's like, it just feels really special.
No, I think even going back, yeah, I can talk about the Bucks all the time because I just think Bucks and Kenny, I think they get so much hate because we've rarely seen in wrestling, especially since I would say since WCW folded, we've rarely seen, if ever, really seen people carve their own path, like
Yeah.
really carve their own path, and just play by their own rules. And I think a lot of people hold a lot of resentment from that for that because
Yeah.
they simply didn't have either the courage or the wherewithal or the resources to, because obviously money is a thing and people have families to feed. But the Bucks, and Kenny, but specifically the Bucks, these are people who revolutionized the game. And
Yeah.
I would say Colt Cabana is also very important here too. When you think about
Yeah.
independent wrestlers or just non WWE wrestlers being able to not just establish a living, but be able to make a living, feed themselves and their families, but also excel and build a fan base, build a loyal fan base that is willing to follow you and all of your crazy. And because
Yeah.
back then that's what it was. It was crazy. Whether
It was
it's
insane.
whether it's a YouTube show, or whether it's this bringing these elements to New Japan that we don't see in New Japan, and
Yeah.
to the stuff that they were doing in Ring of Honor, the Elite, like even they stole the show in Bullet Club. Like they stole the show
Yeah.
from Bullet Club. And I think they have done so much, not just for themselves, but also for other people. Like there are so many people who have jobs right now that are employed who are able to love wrestling and do
Yes.
wrestling and feed their families right now. And they taught wrestlers how to market themselves, how to turn themselves into a brand. Like content, and we look now like every wrestler has a blog.
Yeah.
And they revolutionized all of that. And I think that when it's all said and done and we talk about truly the most influential wrestlers, I would say of all time, and I would say of this generation, but I truly believe of all time, you got to talk about the Bucks.
You have to talk about them. Like, love them, hate them when it comes to their wrestling style, whatever. But when it comes to everything outside of the ring, like everything that you talked about, you can't deny the positive impacts they've had and everything they've done to just breathe new life into the wrestling world and give the fans an alternative, not just in AEW, but in all the other indies that have been inspired because of them, and everything they've done for wrestling just outside of their company as well. Is, you can't rewrite history when it comes to the impact that the Young Bucks have had, because without them, I can guarantee a lot of us wouldn't be wrestling fans anymore, because
That's
we wouldn't have the alternatives.
PWG, Ring of Honor, New
Yep.
Japan, AEW. Um, Even when you say getting into them in TNA, like they've touched
Mm-hmm.
just about everything except for WWE. And honestly, I truly don't believe. I think they don't need it. I don't believe they need it. Like they don't need it whatsoever.
They've exceeded the need to ever have to go.
Absolutely.
If they ever wanted to get their WrestleMania moment, just get that little checklist off, whatever, I'd watch it. I'll follow them anywhere. I have for the past 13 years. Like, but they don't need to. They've created their own history.
And I think that's the cool thing about All In, of just like they can create their own moments now. Like they have
Yeah.
their own stadium. They literally
Yeah.
have their own stadium show. And they might, like, just think about it. They could, if this goes like perfectly, they could outsell WrestleMania. That is insane. Like
They
they,
really
if they sell enough seats, they can outsell WrestleMania. Of just like, I just appreciate them. From like, I was a sport and entertainment management major in school, so I always think of like the business side. And from a business,
could.
when you talk about not just the wrestling side, because they're on my tag team, Mount Rushmore for sure. But if you
Yeah,
look
me
at the
too.
business side, I don't think that we've seen anybody as positively influential as them, except for maybe Tony. That's it. Like
Yeah.
I absolutely. Love the Bucks. I love the Bucks. But moving
So
into
much love for them.
fun stuff,
Yes.
the card. What are your anticipations? Like, at
Oh,
first I'm going to ask one controversial question. Do you believe this card needs CM Punk to succeed?
I don't think it needs CM Punk to succeed necessarily, but I do think having a name like that on the card that casual fans will recognize will
Mhm.
sell a fair amount more tickets, or like sell people that were like kind of on the fence about going to this wrestling event they've heard about. If they see a name like that on the card, it's gonna sway them more to a yes, I think. So I don't think they need him to put on a fantastic show, but when it comes to like the business side of it, it's not a bad decision to put him on it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that they need him, but I don't think that the CM FTR versus the Elite match is exactly worth it. I believe that honestly, if MJF is still holding the championship by then, I think that's the match to go with.
Mhm.
I think you finish that story because I think I feel like this is the Elite's night. Like I just feel like this is Elite's night, and I want them to be happy. Like I want them to be
Yeah.
happy, and I feel, yeah, I don't want any drama. Like I really like I don't want any drama. I feel like I'm very proud of AEW for like trekking through Brawl out the way that they did, but I don't want any drama. So if it's going to cause any drama, not saying that CM Punk is the drama before anybody jumps.
Yeah.
No,
We're
either
being impartial.
being impartial. I'm saying that, hey, if he's going to be included, I don't think that they should technically like mix like on the card. I think that there's so many
Yeah, same.
more enticing matchups for both of them. I think MJF needs Punk right now. I
Mhm.
like the title miss reign has been hit or miss for me. So I think that if he is going to still be holding the world championship by then, I think he could benefit more from a CM Punk match than just about anybody else on the roster.
Yeah.
He's the only person that needs it. So just getting that question away. That was a great answer. What is your dream card?
Oh my gosh. There's just, where do you even start? We've been talking about them enough. Let's start with the Bucks. What do we do with the
Yes.
Bucks on this card? Um, self, uh, selfishly, I don't know. It's like I want the Bucks to both have a trios match so I can hear Wayward Son in Wembley Stadium, but I also, do you throw that much talent all into one match, sort of thing? Like,
I mean, yeah.
and if you do trios, who do you put them against that isn't CMFTR? Because I do want to see that match eventually,
Mhm.
but I don't want anything jeopardizing the all-in card. And with backstage politics and drama, we don't know the full story. We don't know where they're all going to be in terms of headspace by then. I don't want them to try and lock something like that in and it just not go well.
Absolutely.
So I'd rather them sit on that feud for the future or whatever. But it's, man, dream match for the Bucks. I'm not the biggest FTR fan, but if they did FTR Bucks free, I wouldn't complain.
Oh yeah.
I think that'd be incredible in front of that crowd.
I think FTR. I think Aussie Open.
Yep, that's
And
the other one.
I think, but especially like Aussie Open has gotten the IWGP belts right now, and I
Yes.
think, they're building up that resume to be able to say that they're one of the best, of all time. And so like they're building that
Mm-hmm.
resume. Obviously, they're still very early on, but that match on Rampage felt like a teaser, even though it was a full 16
Yes.
minutes. And I want more. I want more.
It definitely felt like this is a showcase. This is what we can do, but there's so much more. Like, because we know what the Bucks are like. We know them in a big match, like how far they can go. And
Absolutely.
Aussie Open are really starting to show glimpses of it. Like that match with Bishamon, even with Kyle getting hurt early on, it was fantastic. It was, and I'm biased. I love tag team wrestling. If like that hasn't been obvious so far, but They were incredible in that match. But it's just, yeah, Aussie Open, I would love to see them on the card in any capacity, whether it's like in a tag match, like a dream four-way tag match for me would be FTR, Aussie Open, the Young Bucks, and the Lucha Brothers. Put those four in a ring together. Oh, it could be so good.
So based off of today's BTE, I'm interested to see how long that they stretch the Elite BCC story.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, if they plan to stretch it until All In, I would not mind seeing the Bucks or the trio up against BCC. Like I think that there's so many different combinations, and like also now that I think about it, because it's just a one night event, I'm like, how long is this show going to be in? Like, how are they going to get everybody on this card? Like,
it's I'm anticipating it going like 5 hours, and I'm not mad about that at all. I'm delighted. I'm just like, give me all the wrestling.
Absolutely. And it's just I don't know. Like, I think, do you put the Bucks in a tag or do you put them in a trio? I think it just depends on what Kenny's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so based off of the tournament that was announced yesterday, it looks like we're looking at a very, very, very good chance of getting Omega Ospreay 2 at Forbidden Door. So if that does happen, what do you think is next for Kenny Omega for All In?
I'm not sure, because I was speaking to a friend about this. It's like, if you run Ospreay Omega at Forbidden Door, do you run it again within the next 2 months? Because like between Forbidden Door and Wrestle Kingdom, it would have been almost like pretty much 6 months, like just over 6 months. And I feel like that was a good amount of time in between. It's like letting it like just burn in the background. Everyone's anticipating a rematch. They know it's coming. But it's like, yes, it makes sense to do a match in Japan, Canada, then the UK. That's like the 3 key places for those guys. And don't get me wrong, getting to see that in person twice would be absolutely insane.
Absolutely.
And I've seen a few people throw around the idea of do Kenny vs Punk in the UK, and I'm like, is it the right place to do that match?
Respectfully, and I mean this with all due respect, I genuinely, honestly, purely do not believe that CM Punk's body is in a place to do a singles match with Kenny Omega, because I truly believe Kenny Omega in a stadium, he's going to try to give like Dominion 2018. I'm not sure that CM Punk has the capability, like right now, like we have to, like, this isn't like shade or anything, but we have to think about like his age and also like the pre-existing injuries. Like, I'm not sure he can do a there. And here's the thing, very few people can. There are people in their prime right now who can't hang with Kenny Omega in a singles match. So I don't know, y'all. Like, and we have to think, CM Punk's last few big matches, he's gotten injured. He's gotten injured. He got injured jumping into the crowd. So I don't know. Here's the thing, on paper, absolutely, it's going to sell loads of tickets. But in theory and practice, I know that people have an idea of what that match is supposed to look like, and what they want that match to look like. And I'm not sure if that is what we would actually get. But I, like, hey, I might be wrong. I don't know how his rehab is going, but
I think if and when the match does ever happen, it will be a very good match, and it will probably make a lot of the naysayers look a bit stupid, but I don't know if it would be a stadium caliber match.
Yes.
And you want to leave the fans as happy as possible coming out of this event, because it's all good getting the fans in there. You got to make sure they're happy and that they go home happy, so they'll come back next time, sort of thing. Like, and don't get me wrong, I love CM Punk, I love Kenny.
Yes.
And I think that match would be great on maybe All Out the week after.
Yes.
Don't do it at All In.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think, especially since All Out is, and hey guys, I think it's very poetic to doing it all out. I think you're going to have 9 times out of 10 that will be in Chicago. You have a crowd who's going to they're going to pop for anything. They're gonna pop. And here's the thing, I think the All In crowd is going to pop for anything, but you have to think these are hardcore wrestling fans, and there's a caliber in their mind that they already have made up. And so yeah, I agree. And I agree about Omega and Osprey too. I think you don't run it that quickly. Like you don't run it that quickly. I think that, hey, even if you go Wrestle Kingdom, Forbidden Door, Wrestle Kingdom again, I think that that's a perfect way to finish the story. I feel like finish the story feels slightly.
Yeah.
And I think it's
It's the
Kenny.
perfect thing to do.
Everybody wants Kenny, and I don't know, like he's just one of those people. And also, if he's going to wrestle this super intense match, and I think a lot of this depends on the card for All Out too, because that's the week afterwards. So if you're going to wrestle this super intense match afterwards, maybe you run the trios. Maybe you run the trios match at All In. I don't know. There's just so many different possibilities. Maybe we should come back to that one. Will Ospreay. I feel like he's going to be on this card regardless.
Yes.
I feel like he deserves to be on this card. I think my top 3 people I want to see on this card are, I would like to see Zack Sabre Jr. obviously, would like to see Michael Oku, and I would like to see Will Ospreay. And actually, I would like to see Julia too, because she is from the UK, and I would like to see Julia. So those are 4. If you're not doing Omega versus Ospreay, I would like to see Omega versus Pac. I think we were briefly touched on that earlier. I think that would be
Ospreay versus Pac. Yeah,
I think that would be a very interesting matchup. And I think one of the first things I tweeted when All In was announced was, can you imagine Pac in a stadium show? Like, I think that was one of the first thing I tweeted. Pac in a stadium show?
My God.
He's going to go crazy.
He's an insane wrestler as it is, but in front of his hometown, well, not his hometown crowd because he's from Newcastle, but like in front of his home country crowd, like, oh, it's going to be insane watching him wrestle. And like, I think with Pac as well, he goes hard no matter what. But when the lights are bright, he has never disappointed. Like, whether you look at his indie matches, his AEW matches, like his WWE matches, like he is always, I think people don't appreciate how good of a wrestler he truly is. And this show could really like give him a lot of momentum coming out of it too, depending on what match he does.
Pac is one of those people. Here, I think of him like I think of Samoa Joe and Shingo Takagi. He's one of those people that makes a roster strong. Like anywhere you put him on the card, and like he can be in the main event, he can be in the mid card, and he's going to give you such a solid performance, and he's always going to feel important. And I think I especially noticed this. I've been watching him since NXT, but that night that they did that Rampage Battle of the Belts, wherein Pac wrestled a singles match and then didn't even leave the ring, wrestle one hell of a trios match, or maybe it was the other way around. Like back-to-back matches and didn't blink. I said, is he insane? He didn't even take a swig of water. Absolutely insane. Like, I was like, what is happening? But I would love to see him versus Will Ospreay. I'm trying to think of
that rematch.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other Pac matches. Like I feel like I would want.
Oh, if they bring Vikingo over. Oh my.
You know what? So question. So I saw people debating about this earlier today on Twitter, and so I just want to hear your thoughts on it. How do you feel about outside talent being at All In? I think some people were like, maybe this should, in the spirit of All In, the original All In was all about having talent from all sorts of different promotions and bringing people in from all over the world. That was the original All In. However, people are saying like, hey, but this is AEW All In, so you have to cater to all these people who are from, you know, actually signed on the roster, and they should be prioritized. So what are your thoughts on that? I'm kind of like in the middle of just like, I want my faves on the AEW roster to be, but also I know the difference between, there's a difference between a stadium show and there's a difference between an arena show. There's a huge difference. And like, some people should be on there, and some people, I think they should be prioritized for All Out the next week. So what are your thoughts?
I think it's gonna really embrace the spirit of All In either way, and I think it's gonna be very Forbidden Door-esque, where we're gonna see a lot of trios matches and a lot of four-ways, because Tony's just gonna want to load the card and give as many talent the opportunity, as well as the fans to see as many talent as possible. I I am biased in the fact that there is free agents and non-AEW talent that I want to see tangle it up and like in person, see them wrestle live, like your Vikingos and Kota Ibushi. If they bring him in for it, I feel like that would be very fitting.
Yes.
And just like some of the New Japan talent as well. It's like, I want to see these guys get involved. And I feel like that is just the spirit of All In. You're just all in. Like, you throw all your chips on the table and see what happens.
Can you imagine if for the trios match with the Bucks, they used Kota as a callback to the first All In? I think that would be really cool. Like, it's just like, don't get me wrong, I loved the Rey Mysterio Don whole thing, but damn it, Ray, I'm so sad that you resign sometimes, because I would love
his contract is up in August.
Oh wait, seriously? Oh, I didn't know that. Now, please don't get me excited.
That's why, like, I've made a few jokes on Twitter. I'm just like, it's coming full circle, and he's gonna come back at All In.
Yeah, I think there's a few very interesting free agents at play. If Drew McIntyre decides not to resign to WWE, like, I don't claim to know what he's thinking. I don't know. But if he doesn't resign, he has to be on that card. Like, there's no.
Yeah, they could do the TNA thing where they debuted him in the UK.
Can you imagine Drew McIntyre versus Pac?
Oh my god!
Can you imagine that? Like, Drew McIntyre versus Pac. Hey, even make it a three-way. I don't care. McIntyre, Pac, Ospreay. Like, that would be sick.
That's insane.
That would be sick.
Please, man.
I think that would be sick.
That's incredible.
Like, even if you want to,
I do hope he leaves it, WWE. I do hope.
I mean, I will say, I truly believe that there's no place else for him to go. Like, I don't feel like, as far as the ceiling, I feel like he's hit it. It's very clear, like, and I hope that I hate to say it, but I hope the Cody thing was a wake-up call for everybody. Like, guys, you're not the guy. You're not the guy that they're looking for. I know that you thought that you could outwork it and you can just be great. And it's like, you're getting killer reactions at shows. Like Drew, Seth, all these people, like, they don't care. So, like, either you're just going to stop complaining about it and just keep going, or you're going to better yourself. And I hope he does what's best for him. But man, I would love to see him. I would love to see him. Like, even if you want to, like, make it a four-way, throw Orange Cassidy in there, make it for the AEW,
make for the
international championship. Like, I think that there's so many different ways to play. And also, I forgot about this. How do you feel about Omega Okada 5 possibly being on this card? Like, do you think that would fit here? And I think, hey, Okada's dropped the IWGP belt. If Omega holds it through, then it could go. Okada's never challenged for he's never won the US belt. That's one of the only belts in the that he hasn't won. How do you feel about that possibly? I think a lot of people were floating that one around.
Like, as a fan, watching that match live, obviously, would love to do that. Do I think it fits the card? Not really.
Yeah.
I don't feel like All In is the place to do that match. I feel like that's much, much better fitted to a New Japan card. And I feel it would be quite selfish to do that in an AEW capacity, because I just don't feel like it's the right place for that match to happen.
And also, I look at timing too, of just An Okada match is going to go a minimum of 25 minutes. And that's minimum. And an Omega versus Okada match is going to go a minimum of 40 minutes. And I just don't, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do that night. And I just, I just don't think that's, I agree. Obviously, I want to see the match. Would love to see it, maybe Wrestle Kingdom, Dominion, Sakura Genesis, whatever. But I don't think All In is the place for it, just because when Omega Okada fight, is just, they have a way of overshadowing everything. And rightfully so. Yeah. Literally rightfully so.
Yeah.
But this isn't the time for that match, for sure. So moving
it's
on.
Like, if you want to do that match in the UK, like, New Japan does their UK shows, Royal Quest as well. Run it there.
That would be a great Royal Quest headliner.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It'd be incredible. I hope Kenny still has the belts, and I'd love to see him multiple times a year.
That would be an incredible Royal Quest. And I mean, like, that FTR Aussie Open match from last year, Royal Quest, was
magic.
Chef's kiss. Yeah. Fantastic. Moving over to the women. So I'm assuming this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's going to be at least two women's matches. At least two. If there aren't at least two, we have a problem.
Yeah.
So I think I'm almost positive Jamie Hayter is going to hold that belt until All In. I think they would be insane to, like, obviously she's going to get the craziest hometown pop anyway. Yeah. But her coming in as champion, insane. So I've seen a few names being floated around. Obviously Mercedes. There's been, who else I see? I saw Julia. And I saw Britt Baker. And here's the thing. I think that there's an argument for all of them. However, I think Mercedes is going to drop her belt by then. And I think that one makes sense. However, Julia, as long as she has that red belt, I don't think she can get pinned. And I think I'm not sure if she can get pinned, but she might lose the red belt before then. Like I said, like, I don't know. Yeah. But obviously those are two hometown legends. And I think that that would be great. But also I think the Britt match makes sense, because we have to think Britt is one of the only women who was on that original All In card. People have been waiting on the Britt Jamie turn forever. Imagine heel Britt Baker trying to embarrass Jamie Hayter at home. Just, I mean, if you want to talk about a true AEW match in that story, and especially when Britt wrestled Jamie at Pro Wrestling Eve in the UK, came back to the US, told Tony Khan, like, you have to bring this girl in. So she's the reason why Jamie gets signed at AEW, and to go back to the UK. And I think, hey, like, it's not the flashiest match if you want to think about it, but if you want to talk about a homegrown match, I truly believe that there's money there. Hey, you can always run. No, I'm not going to say that, because I don't think Jade isn't ready for a stadium show. Mercedes versus Jade. I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's going to be money. Obviously, like, that's money. That is a money match, but maybe it's more suited for a stateside show rather than maybe an All In show. So what do you think about the women?
I think the Britt match does make a lot of sense, because heel Britt Baker is one of the best heel women that they have. When she's, like, really in her bag and not doing the more gimmicky promos, like, when she's really, like, going full heel, she is great on the mic. And, like, the in-ring work, hit or miss, take it or leave it, whatever. But it's Jamie Hayter. She's not going to have a bad match with Jamie. Like, there's no way. And like you said, like, the story they can tell with this, like, Britt Baker going into this match telling Jamie, I made you, you're here because of me, that sort of thing. that's just going to make Jamie an even bigger babyface in front of a crowd that's already going to be cheering her no matter what.
Absolutely.
And I think like Jamie getting the win over Britt in Wembley Stadium could get one of the biggest pops of the night.
Absolutely.
It would be insane. Like, I think if they did the split right and they built it right, that could be one of the most, like, the biggest matches going into the show for the women. And when it comes to like Jade Cargill, if she still has the belt there, I could see them doing the Mercedes match. And as much as people love to say, give Mercedes her time, give the women their time, like run the long matches, you put them in like a 7-minute match, I think they could make magic on that stage. I really do.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, like you can always run it again. You know, like that's the thing, like you can always run it again. Like I think Mercedes is all about being history. I think even just being on that card, like imagine, like obviously it could do a lot for Jade, but think about what that could do for her. She leaves WWE. She's main event to WrestleMania. Now you're on the card for the largest non-WWE event maybe ever. Like,
yeah,
like the biggest stadium show. And I think that there's a lot for her to gain from this as well. And I think even what you were saying about Britt, of one thing about Britt is like I feel like when she gets in high pressure situations, she delivers. And like and I think also she genuinely cares about the AEW brand, and especially being
100%.
I think that she steps up to a whole different level. And also just I think this match would be doing so much for the independent wrestling community, because like if anybody remembers, well, obviously people is not that long ago, but when Jamie Hayter and Emi Sakura wrestled on Rampage, Pro Wrestling Eve, they were like going crazy on Twitter. Like, if you want to see their first match, we have it available for free. Like, and I think like obviously that would do so much just to like, you know, put their name out there about what does women's wrestling look like in the UK, of just like, oh wow, Jamie and Britt got their start here. And like, you know, use that footage on Dynamite courtesy of Pro Wrestling Eve, of just like on the bigger picture, this could be probably one of, if not the most consequential matches in women wrestling history in the UK. So I don't know, like I'm obviously I love Mercedes. I want to see her involved as much as possible, but I do believe that in the spirit of All In, and I think that things need to still, obviously I love bringing the entire wrestling world in, but I do believe like for AEW things need to make sense. And also I think that one thing that we've learned over the past year is that, guess what? Fans love AEW stories. They love their homegrown talent. They love, like, you know, these long-term stories. You can try to bring in people from wherever, but at the end of the day, if they don't respect this foundation that is already built, fans don't dig it. Like, they just don't. And I believe that Jamie and Britt, I think right now it could seem like a gamble and be like, oh, well, they didn't, like, you know, they weren't on TV until like, you know, a few years ago. But I believe like that is the match that's going to pay off and pay off for fans. Like Jamie Hayter and Wembley, god damn. Like, can you?
Oh, it's going to be magic.
When her music hits, I think I'm going to I'm going to lose it. Like, I'm going to lose it. So
I've already accepted the fact that I'm just going to be in tears this entire show.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know. It's just going to be, it's going to be magic. I think it's just, there's something about pro wrestling of just like, you know, when a show is just so special, because it just feels like, this is going to sound like so sappy, but it feels like the air just gets filled with like fairy dust or something. And just the magic, and it just feels,
you just get so giddy.
Exactly. And you feel like, oh, this is something special. And I think AEW gives me that feeling. And and the thing is that there's just so many matches. Like, there's so many matches. Like, we still haven't even figured out what are we going to do with Mox. I mean, like, I don't know. I don't think that Mox is going to be on a real singles run. this year. I think he's really going to stick to the BCC thing, which is great, by the way. Everybody's doing great.
Yeah.
I did see this. I saw people saying that obviously on Ring of Honor TV too, the seeds are being planted for Bryan Danielson versus Shibata, my fave, at Forbidden Door, which frees up Bryan Danielson to face Zack Sabre Jr. at All In. I 100% endorse this. I endorse
that should be the match.
100%. Like, I think by then we'll have Nigel McGuinness running the BCC.
Yes.
And which was also teased quite a bit. If you were listening to the commentary at Supercard of Honor, it was the seeds.
Nigel was immediately taking shots at Bryan. It was so funny.
And they were like, do you would you like to be a part of the Blackpool Combat Club? He's like, I'm just looking around right now. Like, the seeds are being planted. So like, I think the BCC, like I said, if they, oh my gosh, like that would actually work out perfectly. Mox, Claudio, and Yuta versus Kota and the Bucks if they decided to run that match. That actually,
oh my God.
If you have Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr., yeah, that actually would work out pretty perfectly.
Yeah. I think I'll cry.
No,
it wouldn't feel real.
I think when I watched the WWE Cruiserweight Classic, I remember walking away from that and just like, I love Kota Ibushi and Zack Sabre Jr. And that was how I was introduced to them. And it's just like, man, to like see them at All In, I think it would just be like so special. It just, I think that would be insane. I think, however, if they did feel the need to put Mox in a singles match, I would not mind seeing Mox run it back with Will Ospreay. Their Windy City Riot match was so freaking good. The finish was weird, but the match was excellent. Like that, and I feel like I don't understand why more people don't talk about it. Like, that was one of the best matches.
It was really good.
It was so good. And so, hey, if they ever wanted to run that one, even though I would actually like
I'm not saying no.
I would like to see them run that one back in New Japan. I'm not gonna lie. I just feel like there's just a difference, like, and I think sometimes people get that mixed up too. Like, oh yeah, we want to see all this in New Japan talent in AEW, which is great. And I think are just at, these style shows. And I think that's awesome. But there's a certain feel and there's a certain like expectation for a New Japan match versus like an AEW match. And I want to see them just go full puro insanity. And I think also Mox, obviously he gets really crazy, but he's a different animal in New Japan. Like, people talk about Kenny, but like,
so crazy. He
gets really, 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 really crazy when he gets to in New Japan. And we have to remind ourselves like, that was the first place that he got to feel free. Like, like when he left WWE, like that was really where he attacked Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing. But when we talk about matches, like that G1 run was when he really took the handcuffs off. And he went on the run of a lifetime. So I'm trying to think who else is MJF. I think that is the top guy. And I will say, I see on Twitter, I do think that is concerning that after you announce this big show, everybody is fantasy booking for literally everyone except for the AEW World Champion. And I think everybody just now, everybody's like, oh yeah, so what are we going to do with MJF? I think that if Punk is a part of it, I would run that for him. I think that MJF needs the conclusion to that story. The best work that MJF has ever done in AEW was that Punk feud, easily. And everything else has kind of, even if it's been good, it obviously hasn't lived up to that. Other than that, I'm not sure who you met. Some people were saying Adam Cole.
I was going to say that's the one that I've seen thrown around. I wouldn't mind that. Ultimate babyface Adam Cole.
Babyface Adam Cole.
The boom when that hits. Wow, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm going to lose
I'm
it.
excited for the matches, but I think I'm more excited about the crowd reactions to music.
And you know what? Not even just that. People were saying this during it. People were saying this during WrestleMania, and I will say I don't like to compare AEW to WWE, but I did agree on this. People are like, when you see the entrances and presentations, people are like, I do wish that there was at least one AEW show where you could have these grand. Obviously, there's been some really cool entrances in AEW, but
Yeah.
like super cool, grand pyro, entrances, these spectacle entrances. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually excited for that. Like, I'm excited. Like, can you imagine Jamie Hayter with like a Becky Lynch style entrance of
Yeah.
like these, like, just, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Oh,
Or it's just, I think for Kenny to have like a Wrestle Kingdom style entrance at a stadium show, and like even the Bucks, like I think like those are like Kenny and the Bucks specifically, those are always guys who have paid attention to the details. And
yeah.
I think that's why I love them and Hangman and Adam Cole. Like they always, because a lot of time men don't pay attention to presentation, but
Yeah.
they have always paid attention to the minor things of just
Mm-hmm.
like, do you think about how hard Denise Cutler is going to go on this gear?
Yes. The gear. Oh my god, the gear.
The gear, like Denise Cutler
Oh,
is about to go absolutely
absolutely
insane,
nuts.
absolutely insane on
I
this.
hadn't even thought about that.
Like the entrances, the gear. That's why you know what I don't like what you said. Even if it's 7 minutes, Mercedes and Jade on that card.
Yeah.
Because people always say, well, Jade should go to WWE because that's where she'll never have a big entrance. Okay, cool. Also, like, by the way, all of Jade's pay-per-view entrances have all been great. Even like without
Yeah.
stadium. Like she always, like I said, she pays attention to the details. But her and Mercedes having a mother off
Oh,
and at Wembley,
yeah. Yeah.
and like Britt's entrance is already like I think already super sick. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
that in Wembley. I would like the BCC. Like, can you imagine them trying to come through a stadium crowd?
Oh, he's gonna take 10 years to get to the ring. Like all those people singing Wild Thing. Man, when Judas hits,
Listen, man,
mm,
I get down for
yeah.
Judas every time. I get down
Mm,
for Judas every single time, and I'm going to lose it.
when that hit Bowler, I went insane.
Like, okay, so I'm halfway through the second DVD, so I haven't gotten there yet, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, when do I get to Jericho? So I'm almost there. Like, I'm probably going to finish that DVD this week, but
Yeah.
no, Judas is going to slap. Oh, what are they going to do with him?
With America. Oh, I imagine this is going to be one of the like the trios or 10-man tags that
Absolutely.
they do sort of thing. And he wants to wrestle Michael Oku, or he wants Michael Oku on the card at least. I don't know if he actually wants to wrestle him, but if they throw it back and they do JAS versus Michael Oku and 4 people that he's really loves from the British indie scene, like
Like
he
just
brings some friends with
Leon
him.
Slater. I'm not sure if
Oh,
maybe Cameron Kai. I like Cameron Kai a lot.
Cameron Kai is really good. My say they did a 10-man tag and it was like Jericho, Daniel Garcia, Sammy Guevara, and 2.0. And you did those against Michael Oku, Leon Slater, Callum Newman. Dan Maloney's with United Empire now, so that one's
Oh
out.
yeah, he would be awesome.
Trying to think who's another
Um,
hard hitter they could throw in.
I like TK.
TK Cooper?
Mhm.
Yeah, he's throwing some Sunshine Machine as well. Yeah, TK Cooper and Chad Mambo. Like you did something like that, and like that really does feel like the spirit of All In.
Oh,
Like, you
absolutely.
have these top guys and these incredible indie guys, and you just do this like 15-minute insane match, and everyone gets their spots. And I'm like giddy thinking about it.
I
I think it would
know.
be so cool.
So, and I heard, I think this is the last big rumor that I had heard, but there's rumors that this is going to be Sting's retirement match at All In, either All In or All Out. I think it's Sting. I want him to have the big Muda send off. So,
Yeah,
stadium match. So, probably we're looking at Sting versus Darby, or Sting and Darby versus insert team here.
yeah,
And I think here's the thing. I think that I truly believe that, and I've some people were saying like, like they need Punk. Once that clicked for me, I was like, oh no, they don't. Because here's the thing: with look at the Muto thing, people might feel whatever they felt about Kaiji Muto or whatever. When it was announced that hey, this is his last match, they sold out the Tokyo Dome.
yeah,
Sting has just as much reach, if not has honestly more. When people and you have, I think there's a lot of people who were frustrated with how Sting's WWE run went, including me. I was a
yeah,
very, very, very,
yeah,
very upset and personally offended. So I think if you make that announcement that this is Sting's official retirement, and here's the thing, because it's AEW and how well this run is going, you know that Tony's going to do it up for him, and you know he's going to do it right.
yeah,
I think once they announce that, if they announce that, I think that so many tickets are going to move. Sting is an icon, like easily.
yeah,
Like I think it's going to move, and like maybe even who knows, like maybe run, Sting, do something with Dustin Rhodes too, like because who's also retiring this year. Um, I think that's huge, and people be like, "Oh yeah, it's like the old guys taking up spots on the card." Hey guys, sometimes
they're legends.
legends, and I think even look at people felt a certain way about like the Muto Last Love event, but at the same time, look at how many people got elevated just from being on that card. Like Okada whooped Kiyomiya's ass on that card, but that was a star-making moment for him. That put him and Noah on the map for so many people with that match. You have to think about the women's showcase. That was the best 6-woman tag I've ever seen in my life. Hey, the thing is, this is how you use legends. Like this is how you use legends. You should be able to use legends to uplift everybody else on the card. Put the eyes on new faces, put eyes on new faces, and to shed a light on the new generation. And I felt like that show. That's why it's still one of my favorite shows of the year. I feel like it did that very well, and also the match was pretty good. Obviously, him nor Naito have knees. We know. We know. But like even like the beautiful moment at the end with Masahiro Chono, like that's what pro wrestling is about. It's about crying, guys. It's about crying. It's about tears. It's about emotion.
Just
And,
getting lost in the moment.
and there's not going to be a dry eye in the house when Sting, wrestles his last match. So I think I don't know. I'm not sure because I did see him in that interview that he had did a couple months ago. He was like, "There's no more singles matches in my future. It's going to be purely tag from here on out." But I'm not sure if he meant that like for like the last match. So maybe he goes against.
I have an idea, and I don't know how well this will be received by people, just because how people feel about FTR. But if you did Sting and Darby, who have never been for the tag titles, against FTR in a titles versus retirement match.
And the storytelling of that, because you got to think they just won those titles in a titles versus career match, and I think that would be fantastic. No,
I think it'd be beautiful.
FTR versus Darby and Sting. That's it. I'm now married to that match.
Even if it doesn't happen in All In, this is how Sting now needs to go out, because if I've thought about it and I need it.
If he's not going to wrestle Darby, if he's not going to do the singles, I think that absolutely, like that's
because Sting's so beloved in the UK as well. Like in his like TNA run when they were doing all the shows here, he was so loved. So like wrestling his last match here would be poetic.
Very, and I think for me personally, I got to know Sting through TNA. Like I loved him. Like I'm like too young to like really. I never watched WCW like because I was like 2 years old. But when I watched him in TNA, like I absolutely loved him. I thought that he was great. I was a main event Mafia stan. Shout out to the main event Mafia stans. I feel like, hey, you had your BCC, you all have your elites. Guess what? For the main event Mafia, yeah, you had to be there, man.
But I was an Ace as an Eights girl. I really was.
God, it never ended. You people talk about Bullet Club never ending. Okay. Okay, cool. But yeah, I think no Sting, and I think you have to think, especially when we have so many legends and Hall of Famers who have honestly turned out to be shitty people. It's like terrible reputations. Sting has always carried himself with such class, such love for the industry. He always, speaks, highly of everybody. It's just the way that he carries himself. And we don't see that from a lot of other people from his time, and he's so beloved. And I don't think that, I think that's also why it bothered so many people when that WWE run went the way that it did, because like I'm not gonna say anybody deserves that, but if anybody did, it wasn't Sting. Like, and he deserves his flowers. And I believe that this AEW run has been so great. Like, think about it. There's new generations of wrestling fans who found Sting through AEW.
Yeah,
there are
which
people,
is wild.
That's like that's insane. And I mean, people already call me like a baby because I found him through TNA because I've been watching Sting since the 80s. Okay, grandpa. But I think that's just so cool of just like you'll see kids in the crowd wearing Sting masks. Like that's insane of just like, there's probably somebody who says that this 60-year-old is their favorite wrestler and they might be like 15. And like that's just so insane. Like his impact, I truly believe like that's going to be the ace in the hole for Tony. I mean, like if you pull the trigger on, and I just like we've already seen it with Muda. Like people will come. Like people will come because that's one thing about that is how you attract casual fans. Now that is how you attract casual fans. Like that is a name that anybody probably who has touched wrestling between 1985 probably to now, everybody knows Sting. So
everyone knows who Sting is.
And I will say there's a lot more people who know Sting than know CM Punk, because even then, by the time Punk came around, a lot of people had already, that is when WWE viewership had already started to decline. And so obviously you're going to grab a lot of people. I was one of those people who was who is a CM Punk fan. My shirt is in the drawer. I literally found him through WWE. So like obviously for my generation, he's a big deal. But if you want to talk about somebody who has been an intergenerational superstar from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s to now the 2020s, continue to reinvent himself. And honestly, we have never watched Sting truly decline. Like we've seen so many other people. He can still put on a banger of a match, and he knows his limitations. Yeah. He has no intentions of like trying to, he's not Ric Flair at all. So I think that's the ace in the hole for this show.
Like you advertise a Sting match that could be his last ever match. Like that's another thing that's going to sway fans of, oh shit, I have to be there for this. Like, what if this is the last time? Like, if he retires here, what's going to happen? Like, and if he doesn't retire, he wins the belts, and that's even more insane. Like, Absolutely. It is a real. When you're putting on a stadium match, this is the sort of match you need. I think it would be nuts.
You have to put it, and I'm not saying you have to put it in the main event, even though I think you probably could, you actually could probably and still sell tickets. But no, like that's That is the match for the casuals. Everybody wants to talk about the casuals. You want to get casuals?
Yeah.
Sting. Everybody loves Sting. I have not met a wrestling fan that doesn't like Sting. And that's saying something, because I think I've met a wrestling fan that dislikes just about anybody. But I've never met anybody that dislikes.
Yeah.
Never ever heard, never seen Sting slander, even on the TL. That's crazy. That's unheard of.
And it's like, UK fans love FTR as well. Like, if you've watched Royal Quest, you can hear them singing their music, and everyone loves them. And yes, it's like but it's a face versus face dynamic. Like, surely that's not going to go well. This match surpasses any issues that would have.
Absolutely.
Because the crowd's going to pop for everyone. They're going to love the match in its entirety. And like, yes, I have my personal feelings about FTR and how they are online and whatever, but they feel like they could be the right team to be in this position with Sting.
Absolutely. And I think one thing about FTR, their entire gimmick is about being all about tribute to the legends and stuff like that. They're the perfect people for this. Like, people, like, however, in the ring and everything that they do, their matches are never up for debate. Like, when it comes from bell to bell, there are very few tag teams that can hang. Like, and they are the bar right now for, for tag team wrestling. Like, what they do online, that's to each its own. Yeah, to each its own. However, but when it comes to bell to bell, and I think even watching them from being the Revival, to AEW, to that match at Royal Quest, like, and I mean that incredible trilogy with the Briscoes. I was in the room for Jay Briscoe's last match at Final Battle, and that top guys, them boys chant, nuts.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: it basically was essentially the same thing, a face versus face dynamic. But for good wrestling, people don't care. Like, I think that's the beauty of AEW too, of just, they're not always wrapped up in like you have to do face versus heel all the time. We've gotten to see so many different, combinations of these deeply, how do I want to say it? These deeply conflicted and complex characters who are, some days are good guys who have bad days. Some days they're bad guys who have good days. And I think that's the beauty of it too. I think that's why we get also invested. Perfect example, Mox and Hangman, of just like taking us on a what do you do with Hangman?
Oh boy.
And
what do you do with Hangman?
Hey, if you don't get Coda to team with the Bucks, Hangman, the Hung Bucks would be absolutely or do an 8-man tag. 8-man tag. And put somebody on. I'm almost positive the BCC will probably bring in a new member by the end of this year,
and it's going to be Takeshita.
It's going to be Takeshita.
If you ask me, it's going to be Takeshita,
and it's going to be Takeshita. So hey, 8-man tag. Because here's the thing: like, there's some people. I hate to say it. I think like there's some people on this in AEW who should be on this card, but there's some people who have to be on this card, and. I believe that Hangman is one of those people, just as like integral as the Bucks, Kenny, like non-negotiable. He has to be on that card, and I think that him doing something with the Bucks would be really cool. I would love to see them together, like an 8-man tag: Mox, Yuta, Claudio, Takeshita.
Man.
I think that would be insane, and I'm trying to think of who else. Like, we already put.
If you don't do that, do you finally run back the singles match with Jay White and kick off the Bullet Club versus Elite feud that everyone's like, not everyone, I'm dying for, because I'm a real faction person. I love everything about it.
I completely forgot. We have to factor Jay White into all of this. Like,
he's on the promotional posters now.
He sure is. I would like that. I think Bullet Club versus the Elite is a built-in story.
Yes.
And I think honestly, that makes a lot of sense, because to think Bullet Club was essentially the basis for the original All In. I don't think that they can do this show
Mm-hmm.
without Bullet Club, honestly. Like, if in the spirit of All In, like, even it, I rewatched Kenny versus Penta from All In the other week, and literally the Bullet Club logo was flashing during the entire match.
Yeah.
Like, for why? First of all, I'm not sure if that was a glitch or what, but it was, and I'm just like, oh yeah, like Bullet Club is crucial for this, and so I think that maybe you run a three-way. You know, like my goal for Forbidden Door is I would like to see an elite BCC United Empire three-way. That's
Yeah.
my goal for
Well,
Forbidden
that's
Door.
exciting.
Yeah, that's my goal for Forbidden Door because I feel like right now they're the top three factions. They're my three favorite factions right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Bullet Club back at Black and Gold is going to try to creep in there because I'm very excited to see what. First of all, wait, I want to see what El Phantasmo is up to. I want to see that after Sakura
Yes.
Genesis. I want to see what El
I
Phantasmo.
was. I knew it was coming, and I was still heartbroken about the turn because I love El Phantasmo. That's my guy, and I was like, "Wow, they really done did it. They really kicked him out of Bullet Club."
And I think here's the thing: like Sakura Genesis had been on for a minute, but like from that moment on, it shifted to like I mean, the I don't even know how to describe the best 5 match
Stretch.
stretch I've
It
ever
was
seen.
literally. I wasn't able to watch it live, so I had asked some friends like, right, what should I watch? And my friend AO was just like, watch the Bullet Club breakdown and go from there. Don't skip anything after that. I was like, cool,
Perfection.
okay.
And the thing is, like, when did that start? I think I went to sleep around 1. I woke up at 5. It started at 5:30. No, and so I missed my alarm, so I don't get to start watching until like 6. And I woke up right at the beginning of the Bullet Club 6-man tag, and like, and I was like, how am I going to stay awake? Literally from the turn on,
Mm-hmm.
wide awake, like
Banger after
everything.
banger after banger.
Everything was so good. Like I had never like that was my first Robbie Eagles match. And
Mm.
I had no idea he was that good. I had
Yeah,
no
man.
idea that Robbie Eagles was that good. Also, like TMDK is like doing really well.
I
Like
like TMDK a lot.
TMDK is doing really well. And who else? Just Five Guys is doing
Great trio.
incredible.
I love them.
I think it's great. Tai Chi is the best father
Yeah.
in professional wrestling right now. And I love him and his bang. Um, but yeah, I don't
Mm.
know. Like, I think like Bullet Club has to be included. I think the BCC, we're going to see them. I think, hey, we might see the United Empire. I don't at this All In show. Obviously, Will
Mm-hmm.
Ospreay will be included. Like, I
You
don't feel
have to include like at least Will Ospreay and Aussie
like
Open. Like if you don't, like what are we doing?
you need. Yeah, like I think Aussie. What do you do with Aussie Open? Hey,
What
also,
do
hey,
you do
here's
with
the thing though.
Aussie Open?
If you don't run FTR and Aussie Open at Forbidden Door, I do believe that it could be fitting to do it at All In because it's in London. And you have to think the last time that they met wrestled was at Royal Quest 2.
Yep.
I maybe like I think that could be a possible thing,
Do it for all the gold.
but also at the same time you have to think that there's some other. I feel like the Acclaimed has to be on this card.
Yes.
I feel like the Acclaimed.
What do we do?
Can you imagine that pop?
Oh my god.
I think that might actually be the
Because
loudest
UK
pop in
crowds are
You
yeah.
love to sing.
Like
That's the first thing that I noticed about UK. I was like, damn, they make a song out of anything. I was like, UK crowds love. Like, obviously, I heard it at at the Castle, but then like being at the Rev Pro show, they made a song for literally every, or at least 2 songs for every single match. Like, I still
yep.
remember like parts of the one they were singing about the arrows of Hungary, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah, I can imagine.
I was like, did you write these down before you got here, or and like the Acclaimed, they're gonna lose it.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. Like you said earlier, I
Oh
think there
man.
would have to be a lot of I do think there's going to be a lot of 6-pack challenges, a lot of 4 ways just to get people in the
Yeah.
car. And I think it's going to be set up almost like a New Japan show in that sense. So just like, a
Yeah.
lot of 6-packs, a lot of, 4 ways. And then towards the end of the card, that's when we start getting these singles matches or these important tag
Yeah.
matches. And because there's no way, and honestly, I hope that they do a Rampage taping the night before. Um,
Yeah.
something like that, maybe in Wembley Arena, just to be able to like, hey, even if you don't get on this stadium card, you still get the experience of wrestling in the UK and
Yeah.
getting that welcome for it. Because I feel like people deserve it. Like I do believe that a lot
Oh,
of
100%.
yeah, I think like even wrestlers like Claudio is going to get like this insane reaction in
Yeah.
Europe. And I don't know, it's just so exciting. Like it's like this is so exciting. And I think like it's an excitement that I don't think I've ever really felt as a wrestling fan of just
Yeah.
like there's so many different ways that this can go. And I feel like I'll be happy with absolutely all of them. Like, like
Same.
obviously like
It's
these
just
are my opinions, but truly, honestly, I'm just gonna be so happy to be there. I'm not even sure. Will I be able to watch the matches because my eyes are so filled with tears? Probably not. I've noticed
yeah.
that anytime I go to a pay-per-view type show live, I typically walk away not remembering anything. And I have to go back and like purchase it anyway and rewatch it because I
Yeah.
was too busy either crying, screaming, yelling, sobbing, about to pass out, hyperventilating, or any other of those
yeah.
things. So I think any way it goes, I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. And plus, we have All Out the next week.
Yep. There's just so much. Wrestling is so busy all the time, and we are very, very lucky as fans that there's so much that there is nowadays.
And I think we're in a golden era. Like, we have
Yep.
agents, like, and not just men free agents, we have female free agents.
Female, yep.
Great, solid, amazing female free agents like Mercedes, Trinity. Like I think we're in this golden era of wrestling, and it's super
Yep.
cool. And I truly and like this is and I truly feel like if you call yourself a wrestling fan and if you only watch one promotion, and no matter which promotion it is, it can be WWE and AEW, you're cheating yourself. Like you're missing
Yeah.
out. You're literally missing out. There's so many opportunities out there. There's so many great wrestling, so much great wrestling out there, so many great promotions, so many
Yep.
great matches. Like there's so much to enjoy and to love about wrestling right now. And so I hope if you don't take anything from this podcast, this episode is like,
Yes.
go enjoy some. Get on Cage Match.
100%.
Look up one of the wrestlers that we talked about and just start watching matches. I will say, Rev Pro on demand is a little expensive.
Yeah.
It is a little expensive, but they do have a 7-day free trial. So I recommend making a list, commit to the list to watch it during the 7-day
Yep.
trial, and keep it pushing. But and also UK fans are lucky. You all have AEW Plus to
Yes.
you have AEW Plus, so you can watch literally
I've
everything.
been rewatching AEW like from the beginning, and I'm just about to hit the pandemic era. Mhm.
And I will say, hey, the pandemic era, I found AEW much more watchable than anything else during the pandemic.
Mhm.
I didn't watch a lot of wrestling during the pandemic because LOL depression, but I I did enjoy AEW more than anything else, and
Yeah.
I feel like they really got creative. Obviously, some things worked.
Stadium Stampede.
Exactly, like some things worked, some things didn't. But the things that worked
Yeah.
really worked, and Stadium
Yeah.
Stampede is a great example of that. But yeah, I think we've talked almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
I was so scared that I was like, are we even going to get to 30 minutes of just like that's so crazy? But hey, when you're talking about something that you love, you can talk all day, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that we could have talked about so much more, and that we'll
Oh,
definitely have
100%.
so many more things to talk about in the future,
Yeah.
specifically after Forbidden Door. So we're probably going to have you on again.
Oh,
But
100%. I'd love to come on again.
absolutely. But how can the people find you?
So this is, where is it there? This is my Twitter out. You can find me on there. That is like where I mainly talk about wrestling. Sometimes I'm on the Wrestle Purist podcast as well. So like if you want to see me, I do some stuff over there. But yeah.
Yay. And so as you all know, you can find me at Lyric Wrestling. Thank you for supporting the Maps and Graps podcast. This has been a blast talking about BritWres 101 and AEW All In, how special it's going to be.
Yeah.
I hope that if you all had the ability, make the trip.
Yes.
If
Please
you can't, obviously order it, but would love to see so many international faces at the show. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.